I was over here under the page hit ranking. I changed this up to trending for the past 7 days, and I noticed, once it reloads here, that RebornOS is by far the most trending distribution on Distro Watch. So I went ahead over here, read about it a little, and I realized it's an Arch-based system. It ships with GNOME by default, and it seems like an interesting distribution worth checking out. And that's what we're going to do here today, is check out RebornOS for the very first time. Well, at least my very first time. This is their website. I did skim through this real quick. It's RebornOS, made for you, made with you. Unlimited choices, so they provide you the option of over 10 desktop environments, which is very nice that they include that. I do like the choice. I'm currently running Arco Linux, and it's made it extremely easy to go ahead and jump around and try out all the different desktop environments without having to go through and manually install them all. Over 30 optional features, and it looks like, based on what it says, like LibreOffice or WPS, different wines, Firefox, Chrome, Opera. It's probably going to have the same installation format as Arco Linux when it comes to actually picking out the software that we're going to be running. I'm not going to read all that. High performance, so we'll see. Flatpak support. I do prefer snap packages, but it is nice that that is included. Anbox support, that is nice. I could tell already that this is PAMAC, so they're using Manjaro's package manager. So this seems to be a lot like Arco Linux based on what I'm seeing. But today we're going to go ahead and try it out and see what they have to offer. So let's go ahead and download this. New installer, ISO, direct download links. Let's go ahead and download a torrent to this from this website here. Now you can see that we actually started the download here in this torrent client, and it's only 2.07 gigabytes. So based on that, I would assume it's a pretty lightweight distribution out of the gate. And when it runs you through the actual installer, if it is the case that you're going to be picking all the applications, it's going to download a lot of that on the fly. So you probably should have an internet connection when you're installing RebornOS. Otherwise, you might not get that many options, but we're going to find that out in just a minute. Alright, so this is the first time I'm booting into RebornOS. So we're just going to do the regular boot RebornOS. So this is the RebornOS desktop, and I remember seeing this screen lock disabled. First things first, let's go ahead, before I get too in-depth into that, let's go over here and change our display. And once we do that, we'll actually be able to check this out. This does ship with GNOME out of the gate, which is what we saw on the Distro Watch website, that it is a GNOME based, or not GNOME based, but it ships with GNOME as the desktop environment. Let's go ahead with this one, which is the 16:9 option. Keep these changes, close this out, and let's kind of check this out, see what we get out of the gate. This isn't really the traditional GNOME desktop. It is GNOME, but it's not up at the top over here. We got a nice taskbar with the icon-based, or the icon-only taskbar where the window's minimized to. So that is really nice. Kind of brings a familiarity to somebody who's switching over from like Windows or something. It does get different, as we saw. When I click this, this is the traditional GNOME menu system or application launcher. Scrolling through here, we don't really have too much going on. So we have add remove software, which we saw earlier was PAMAC. Arch Linux, little gear. Let's see what this is real quick. Status. So this is kernel. So this is how we can change our kernel, I guess. If we go over to manage, yeah, this is all just picking our kernel. So that's cool. They give you that option, kernel LTS, and you go ahead and pick from there. It seems to be running the 5.9.14 Arch kernel at boot, which is nice. It's a pretty recent kernel. Go ahead and close that out, and let's see what else we got going on here. Just some settings stuff, books, boxes, calendar, cheese, which is for webcams, clocks, contacts, dconf editor, e-links, env, config probably, extensions, so it comes with the GNOME Tweak tools pre-installed, which is very handy. Makes it a lot easier for somebody who's new to go ahead and add tweaks without realizing they don't have the proper software. Firefox Firewall, firmware, G-parted, which is nice. That's my favorite of all the partition editing suites. HDSP icon browser, maps. We have, which I think this is GNOME Maps. Let's see if they're using a different service or if this is actually GNOME Maps, which it seems to be. And I have to say right out of the get-go, especially if we're running on a virtual machine, this is very, very responsive and quick. So if we zoom in, we can see my hometown is over here. Zoom in on my hometown of Yakult, Washington. If you ever want to see a very small town, this is the entire thing. That is my hometown. Okay, let's close out of here. Go to applications, scroll back down, music, NVIDIA stuff. So based on this, it comes with NVIDIA drivers pre-installed, so there's probably no issue booting into that. But that could also be an issue with you if you don't want that pre-installed on your distribution. Paste, parental controls, photos, and here we have various system utilities. So let's see what their system monitor looks like here. This looks like the basic GNOME system monitor. We can find that out by going to the About System Monitor, which it seems to be. Go ahead and close this out, jump back over here, go past utilities. We have a chat client, pulse audio, Qt5 settings. So they probably have Qt and GTK already installed on the system. RebornOS stuff, SDDM, settings, software, readers, and you can pick between the LightDM and SDDM, so that's really, really handy. I don't think that option was available in Arco, where you can actually pick your display manager, choose the themes and all that you'd like to use. Over here we have desktop environments, so let's see what they have for an option here. They have Budgie, Cinnamon, Deepen, Enlightenment, which to be 100% honest, I'm not exactly sure what that is. GNOME i3, let's scroll down here, KDE Plasma, LXQT, Mate, OpenBox, and XFCE. So a very, very good start, and a lot of the stuff that somebody would want to easily click and install. You'd always install desktop environments with a simple command in the terminal, but it is nice that they provide that option. So that's the RebornOS customization. Under system tasks, we have some system maintenance, so you can save. So let's see what that's actually doing. Clear cache, clear journal, and remove unnecessary programs. Okay. Rank the mirrors, so it's probably finding the quickest mirror to use for downloading updates and various software. Repair, save, recover programs, reinstall grub, rebuild grub. So they have a lot of little tweaks and tools to help improve your system performance. Under programs, you have a couple different add-ons, so that's nice. Tools, Pacman settings, Arc kernel manager, which is what we were in earlier. Stacer, which is a great application. It's kind of like a task manager and system monitor and a C cleaner kind of built into one. Pamax software. So let's go into Pacman settings. Let's see what they give you in here, if it will open. There we go. Okay, so we have testing, RebornOS. So, okay, this is selecting your repositories right here. If we go over to options, okay, so we have the root directories. We could change directories, various commands when we execute certain things. Then we have our mirror list, so where we want to actually download everything from. So far, this is a very, very nice suite of applications, which compared to something like the last distribution I looked at, Garuda, this is a lot more usable kind of tweaks and tools, and nothing over the top and a bunch of things that you won't be using. So out of everything I've seen here, it's actually beneficial, and I can see most people actually being able to utilize these tools and settings. Making it easier saves you a trip of scrolling through config files and trying to edit it that way. So let's go ahead and close this out. I'm not going to jump around in here because I'm assuming that this just takes you to like the Pacman preferences. We've already seen this, and I covered Stacer in a previous video. Rollback my system. So this might be like a time shift like utility, but I don't know. I'm not going to actually roll back my system because this is a ISO, but I'm assuming you could click on like the 15th, hit rollback my system, and actually do that. If that works as it seems like it would, that would be a wonderful tool, and it's even easier than time shift. Except for time shift is really good because you can use a ISO of a distro, plug it in, and use time shift that way. So I would have to learn more about this little utility before I can talk more on that. but just based on if it works as it's shown, that's awesome. Before we close out of this and go to the actual install, let's see the settings of this. Please select your favorite terminal. So that's the only setting. That's pretty cool. Well, not pretty cool, but that's pretty simple. The only setting for their Reborn Fire is to pick a terminal. The GNOME terminal is the only one installed. I've been using Terminator a lot lately on my primary distribution, and so far it has been a great terminal. So let's close this out, jump back over here, and this is the start screen we saw originally before I went ahead and changed the resolution up. There's not a crazy amount of options here. It just gives you some of the welcome to RebornOS, try it, install it. Clicking try it, I'm assuming, would close this out. But for this case, we're going to go ahead and click install it. Okay, so this is the installer. I am noticing it does look a little bit different than the typical Linux distribution installers that we see. The buttons are up here. The settings are like this. So it is a little bit different, but generally probably the same process. For the best results, ensure your computer has at least 4 gigs or 8 gigs of available storage, which is not that much. Plugged into a power source, connected to the internet. Chinchi is up to date, and there's no temporary packaging issues. So it gives you a little rundown of the things you want to check. I think we're good, and so we're going to pick our territory or area. This is where we would usually see a map. So I'm going to go ahead and pick, is this, okay, so this is your system language. So we could just go with English, US, United States. That's where I am at. Next, okay, so this is the map. So we're going to go over here. That's my time zone, Pacific Standard. Go ahead and go next. English, US keyboard is fine. Okay, so this is cool. It allows you to pick your desktop environment during the installation process instead of just using their tool that we saw earlier. It is cool. It gives you a little preview window and a description of what's going on. So lightweight desktop environment. If we go to OpenBox, it's not actually a desktop environment, but a window manager. So that's really cool. We're going to go ahead and go with GNOME for this install because that is what it comes with. That is what is built around, and that's what I want to actually see and try out. So now here is the options it was talking about. So we could go ahead and just toggle these switches to enable it to install these during the installation. So applications to perform system maintenance, sure. The Arch User Repository or AUR, we want that. I'm going to skip Chromium. I'm going to skip Dropbox. I just want the standard Firefox web browser. I don't really want FreeOffice. We'll go with hardware analysis. Kernel, LTS version, that is fine. LibreOffice, we want that. Power saving, this is a virtual machine, so I'm going to go ahead and skip that. Run Windows programs on Linux, that's cool to have. But I always say if you're trying to really do that, I would suggest you just find alternatives. You're not going to have a good time if you're trying to run all your Windows suites in Linux. Spotify, I'm not going to do that for now. Steam and Play on Linux, it's cool that they include those together with a simple toggle switch. VLC, let's add it, and that seems to be about it. Let's click this Show Advanced Features and see what we got. WSP Office, Windows sharing. So it just adds more options, spell check, slightly broken at the moment. So it's just some developer tools that aren't, not developer tools, but some, as you can see, tools that aren't really ready yet that you could go ahead and install and try out for them. But so we're going to uncheck that. Go next. And it's giving us a little disclaimer for the Arch User Repository, probably claiming, yeah, they're not responsible for the things on the AUR. That is fine. Select the cache partition, none is good. Everything's going to get deleted, so make sure you select the right device. Miner selection, so we'll let them sort the miner list. It looks like here you could actually go through and select ones if you already know what ones you want to use. Go next from there. Erase entire disk and install RebornOS. I'm not going to crypt it, I'm not going to do an LVM, and I'm not going to change the home directory. Right, here's an option which gparted is already on the system, so selecting this option probably opens a version of gparted. We'll go next. This is the drive I would like to install it on, and it is also the drive that I will put the bootloader on. So let's go next. Now the fun part, we're going to put in all my info. All right, and once you have all that in, we're going to go ahead and go next. And that gives you a rundown of everything you have selected. So we have English United States, Canada, layout US, GNOME, all the features we selected, and your partitions that you're going to be installing on. Go ahead and click next. Reborn installer. Are you really sure you want to continue? Yes, I am. So now it's going to go through the installation process. And if anything comes up, we'll be back. But until then, I'll be back when the installation is completely done. So just a very quick note, it is still installing here, and it downloaded quite a bit of stuff. It's been downloading things for maybe 5 or 10 minutes or so, and I don't have the fastest internet, probably 45 megabytes a second download speed. So it is going to be interesting when we do get in here to see how much of the disk when it comes to storage is taken up. Like I said earlier, this is a 2 gigabyte ISO. So once this is all done, we're going to be able to check out how much the actual installation takes up. All right, so the installation is complete. We have this little pop-up, installation complete. Would you like to restart your system now? Sure, why not? I'm quickly going to make sure the optical drive is out. Force unmount. I'm going to have to reset it real quick because I was oh so too slow. Reset that. There we go. Let's boot into RebornOS for the very first time. Well, into it installed for the very first time. So the background did change. I'm not too sure why. If we go over here, let's see if anything significant has changed with our software. And it does not seem to be the case, except for some of the things I checked and added during the installation process. One thing that I did want to check here real quick is how much of the drive this is taken up. So 41 of 60 gigabytes available. So that means it took 0.1, so basically 13 gigabytes of storage it took up after the installation was complete out of a 2 gigabyte ISO. So the internet was definitely probably required to get this distribution fully up to speed. I don't know what this is and why it's taking so long. Show details of the window. That's not coming up. It completely, when I picked GNOME, it completely went to the default GNOME. I wish it would have stayed the same. Maybe I was supposed to select base system when I did that, but I'm not 100% sure. I know I could go ahead and change that around, but how that was in the actual ISO was absolutely beautiful. If you do know if me selecting base system during the installation would have kept it as is, that would be greatly appreciated. And this is the software center. I'm just going to close it out. And let's see, I'm going to type in PAMAC, add remove software, make sure we have this. So this is beautiful. Up to date, it's up to date. Like I said, it was downloading forever during the installation process, so I hope at a minimum it was actually up to date. Yeah, so this changed. That kind of sucks. I wish it was a little bit more clear. I know I was running GNOME in the actual live disk, so that's really the only negative. I wish I knew how to keep that. But overall, my initial impressions is this is a really clean and simple Arch-based system. It has some extra tools that are very, very handy, such as this way to change your kernels and select your kernels, see what's going on. Comes with PAMAC, which is a Manjaro tool, which is awesome. PAMAC is the reason Manjaro is good, basically, in my opinion. Scroll down here. Let's go Reborn, because that tool was awesome. Make sure it's still here. The RebornOS FIRE tool. All these distributions seem to have some sort of utility that they kind of play around with to make it their own. But this one's nice because it's not loaded with just a crazy amount of nonsense. It gives you a really easy way to change your display manager and desktop environment. GNOME is what I selected during the install, so I could go ahead and just change this to something else if I wanted to. Which right now on my laptop, I have a XFCE installed on OpenSUSE, so I've been playing around with that for a while. Expect a full detailed review of OpenSUSE coming soon. But back to RebornOS, this is a beautiful distribution. This is first impressions, and these are my first impressions, so I haven't played around with it too much. I can't tell you the stability, but even in a virtual environment, this is running awesome. The Grita or Grata. I know people have already corrected me in the comments of that video of how to pronounce it, but the last distribution I checked out, it was extremely laggy when I would even move windows around in that distribution. And this is very, very snappy and quick. Let's open up the system monitor to see what's going on before we end this. It is taking up about 5% of the CPU, running about 1.3 gigabytes of RAM at idle, which is not too bad, and there's a lot less eye candy in this one versus the last one we checked out, which is probably the primary reason why it's very, very responsive. So overall, I am heavily impressed. If I jump up over here to the Firefox, to my Firefox browser, they do have community forums. It's not the prettiest, but if I go under something like announcements, you do see that their community is fairly active. These are announcements. Whoever this Raphael person is seems to be pretty on top of it when it comes to telling the community about things that are going on, updated repositories, things like that. If I go under their questions about RebornOS, you can see, for example, whatever this is was posted 35 minutes ago. There's 3 replies. Basically, everything in here has a reply. So if you do have a question, they seem to be pretty responsive. A lot of them are Raphael replying. So it's probably like the lead developer or something like that. So yeah, that's about it. I'm going to conclude this video. Again, I look forward to trying this out a little bit more. It's something that's actually catching my interest into wanting to deep dive into it. If you enjoyed this initial impression, let me know. And if you'd like me to check out any other Linux distributions, please leave them in the comments down below. If you liked this video, do so. If you disliked it, go ahead and thumb it down. I hope you have a beautiful day. And be sure to check out my content on Library. All my YouTube videos get synced there, and occasionally I'm going to be uploading exclusive content there. Yeah, have a great day, and goodbye.